So friends, today we have a special guest all the way from New York, and his name is Jeff Pawar. So he's working with his startups, Fortune 500 client as a Scrum Master with rich experience in coaching, mentoring agile teams. And today we are going to discuss some of the toughest interview questions which every experienced Scrum Master faced in their interview. So stay tuned and welcome Jay. Many thanks for giving your time and sharing your experience with our audience. Thank
Likewise, I
you.
would like to thank you and thank you for adding special. That's for every Scrum Master, right? It's a special job.
Yes, absolutely. So, Jay, why don't you share your journey, like how you started as a Scrum Master, how's the transition happened from your previous job, whatever role which you are doing. I'm assuming you are working as a developer, so to a Scrum Master, and just share your journey with us.
Sure. I'll actually take you back a little bit before how I actually turned into a Scrum Master. So I started as a front end developer, right? And then from front end developer, the organization that I was working with was expanding their teams. So time to time, I'd actually had to jump in a Scrum Master's role. At that time, I was actually in startup. So startup culture, that the shortage of people, you wear multiple hats, and that gave me an opportunity to actually be on the driver's seat as a Scrum Master. So when my product manager slash Scrum Master was away, I would jump on the daily stand-ups. I would just facilitate backlog grooming. And what basically happened through that is I fell in love with the framework, and I fell in love with how interactive that is, right? And how it actually allows people to collaborate from different diversities, right? And different ethnicity around the world. Because, even though it was a startup, but we had locations in multiple places. And that's where I started to develop passion for this framework. And to be honest with you, it's actually more like people position, right? So rather than sitting in front of the machine all day and coding, like I loved it when I was there, but I enjoyed more being a Scrum Master and helping people and helping the organization to do what they do best and build products, right? And then I can tell you from one of the actually executives said very nicely, right, and very well said, that we want to build the products that people cannot live without, and
That's great.
that's why I became a Scrum Master.
Oh, nice story. Okay, great. So, Jay, so you work with startups, you work with large, big clients, Fortune 500 clients. So, is there any difference the way Agile is implemented in a small and a large organization?
I would say absolutely. Yes, there is a big difference. And the difference is basically in a culture. So when you actually start with startups, they're actually more adaptable, right? They're actually willing to learn more and try different things out, right? So there's always room for innovation, there's always room for learnings. Yet, if you start with big organizations, they're actually process machines already. They already have certain processes in place, and they actually, the way they structure their company is based on the experiences that the previous employees have, right? And they also have executives who have been with the company for a long time, right? And basically they say, okay, this is what the process is, and that's how we're going to run it. And they're very articulate about certain processes, and change is a bit more difficult in established organization, let's say, right? And again, it's nothing wrong with that. It's just that's how they are.
It's all about mindset, right? So it will be
It
a typical job.
Yeah, it's basically, once you have rigid way of doing something, right, and you've been doing it for a long time, and that's why I said, like, right, in established companies, it's very hard to change that mindset. It's very hard to bring that kind of thinking that it's okay to fail. It's okay to move forward. Fail fast, fail forward, right? And failing is like something that I coach my team on, that erase that word. There's no such a word fail in your dictionary anymore. It's lesson learned, and
So it's
that's what it's
all about
about.
learning. Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you have learned, right? If you make one mistake over and over again, right, you'll get the same results. You're not going to get anything different. So make a mistake and learn from your mistakes and correct it. That's what Agile is all about.
Absolutely. Yep.
So
Okay.
that's it. For me, in my experience, it has been a culture, and it has been the acceptance and adaptation from both different sides. Like executives in startups are more willing to listen and try new things out because they know that they got to make out there, right? They got to do something different than what the business has established already.
Yeah. Okay. So Jay, now I'm going to ask you a very interesting question. Okay. So
Sure.
you already have rich experience. So whenever what do you look out in any candidate? When you are interview for a role of a Scrum Master, from your
Okay.
perspective.
From my perspective, okay, it's this is what I would look for in a candidate when I'm interviewing for a Scrum Master, and I have done that for a few organizations that I have worked with. So one thing that I will definitely look out in a Scrum Master is the personality to work with different teams and different people, and someone who's willing to learn and try new things, because education is very, very important for that Scrum Master to actually learn and coach others and work with others. Because, as a Scrum Master, you yourself deal with different personalities, hard personalities, right? And if you don't try to work with them and don't educate yourself, how you're going to teach your team, right? So it's very important that you can get mixed up, you can actually collaborate with others. So collaboration is important. Other thing is that the Scrum Master should be influential, right? If you're having a conversation with a candidate, of course you cannot tell because you have not met them in the past. But then if you ask them about their journey, if you ask them about what they have done to influence their team, that's very helpful for me. And then someone who actually is very familiar with the 4 Agile values and manifestos, 12 principles. That's very important because if you don't know it yourself, then you're not going to be able to teach others. And you have to be a believer. You cannot be like, okay, yeah, you're hiring for a Scrum Master, but I'm a project manager, and I assure you that I can deliver on time and with the deadline that you have in mind. So
Yeah.
I'm not looking for a control and command kind of person, right? I'm not looking for anyone to run a command center. I'm looking for someone who can give authority throughout their servant leadership, right? Who can support. Kobe Bryant, basketball player who actually passed away in an accident last year during COVID-19, had said, it's a quote there, right? And he had said, right, interviewer, right? So a news anchor asked him, "How would you lead, Kobe?" And he replied, "I would serve them. I wouldn't lead. I would just serve." So he himself was a servant leader. He believed in that, and that's what I want to look for in other candidates too.
Great, Jay. Great. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And so now everyone knows it's a very difficult time, with this COVID pandemic. So what are the new challenges which you faced as a Scrum Master and how you dealt with them? If you can just share some example.
Sure. I think for all the Scrum Masters, I can share this and everybody can relate, right? We as Scrum Masters always like to collaborate with our teams and always like to be co-located within the same room, right? Solve problems. So that's been one of the most challenging things, to do everything online, right? Everything has been digitalized. All the meetings are virtual meetings now. So collaboration is not a challenge, but like doing them virtually is a challenge. And other thing is getting other people to engage, right? If you needed someone when you were in the office, you just walk over to their desk and ask questions. It's not the same. You have to actually ping them, right? And you need to allow them to have some time. So that's been a bit of a challenge. And then getting everybody's attention, since if you're not on a video call, if your teams don't have cameras on, then it's very hard to tell if they're either paying attention or not.
Absolutely.
And that's why the quote of the 2020 has been like, can you hear me? Oh, you're on mute? Oh,
Yeah.
can you see my screen?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was paying some attention to some other work. Sorry about that. Oh, I was looking at my other screen.
Yes. This happen very frequently. Yeah.
Yeah. But as humans, right, we need to allow, because everybody's trying to adjust to it. So that's where I see most of the challenges.
Okay. Great. Okay. And so with your experience, so how are you going to measure the maturity of your team or your project or an organization with respect to Agile,
Uh, you're asking a good question, and you're asking three questions all at once. So I'll start at team level. So for team, right, when you're coaching your team, right, how would you measure their agility here, right? How do you say that they're actually mature enough, right? Number one thing that you're doing, right? Are they problem solving, right? Are they approaching in a right way? Do they feel safe and speak about openly, right? Hey, this is a problem we have and we need help. I need help. So they have to be open, right? They have to feel the safety, right? Other thing is that you want to actually leave them in some of the ceremonies and see how they handle those ceremonies, right? You as a Scrum Master, right? You're basically a future coach. So are they handling the ceremonies well, right? Someone is leading the stand-ups, someone is leading the planning meeting, someone is leading the backlog refinement, right? And what are they doing, right? What is the output of it? So you want to measure that also, right? Other thing is that how are they doing in their retrospective, right? And how many problems they have solved along the way, right? Are they learning, right? How are they developing? Because you as a Scrum Master is not only responsible for organization's goal and alignment, right? It's also for the people, because everything that comes down should roll back up. And it's there's an analogy, right? That when you put dirty water through the clean pipes, the water comes out dirty. It doesn't come out clean. So it's matching up with what the organization has in mind, right? And then let's go one level above, right? For the project or the product that you're building, make sure that it's making user experience enhanced, right? It's giving user eye candy, plus also, hey, usability wise, it's very good, amazing. That, and then to organization, make sure that they're getting what they need, right?
Yep, yep, great. Okay. Okay, and this is like a very common thing, conflict at workplace. So how you deal with this kind of conflict with your team or with your PM or supervisor or with your stakeholders? Again, like if you can just share some insight on that.
Sure. So conflicts happen all the time, right? And when you go, especially when you go to a new team and they're not familiar with the Agile framework at all, right? And they don't know what it is about. So you'll get a lot of conflicts there. Plus, teams have internal conflicts in themselves. So I'll give you one of the examples, right? Oh, one of my teams were working on a feature, and they wanted to actually let's even take one level higher up, because I want to get into the leads before I get into the teams. So my two leads were saying that, new project that we have, right, and the components that we are building, I want to actually do it using a different technology than the other team. And the team was saying, okay, our approach is much better because we want to use certain libraries that these teams don't want to use. And then both were like disagreeing with each other. We brought them into the room and spoke to both of the leads and said, hey guys, we need to actually get started with work. So can we come to a conclusion and pick on the technologies and let's get started? And they both disagree. They said, no, my approach is better than his. Or so what we did is what I did is that, I sat down with both of them and I said, okay, you know what, why don't we do this? We built a POC. You bring in with your technology and you bring in with your set of technologies, right? And once POC was done, after a month, we looked at the both POCs and then see which one worked better. So based on the results, we actually had to go with lead A. And then there are other conflicts, right, with your team if they're not attending your ceremonies, if they're not participating. So you want to actually talk to them. And how to tackle this is very easy. It's have a good relationship with your team, collaborate with your team, try to understand who they are, not just based off of what they do, but who they truly are. And that's where the key concept of Agile is. It's not only the product delivery, it's also the people development. Focus on your people. Make sure your people are happy and it will drive your productivity. I'm pretty sure you've read millions of articles on this now, but the modern Agile also mentions this, that the people safety and then the people development is important. So that's where I would focus on. And then that's how you actually tackle some of the conflicts, because they're minor, right? You don't need to argue with someone or having a good relationship at work can eliminate a lot of these conflicts.
Yeah, and how you dealt with your, let's say, your project manager or superior. So let's say if you are not in align with them, with the typical project management hat which these people are wearing. So how you
Yes.
tackle those difficult situations?
I will give you an example of my executive, and I will not mention their name. It's not. It's my previous. It was in my previous role, but one of the stakeholders did not like Agile at all, and then he was not really a fan of it. So I actually had to take him out for a walk. I had to tell him, like, this is the value that we will get out of this Agile framework, and this is why we want to use Agile in our product development rather than going traditional way. Because in his head, he was like, if I'm not getting end to end, it does not add value to my products, and then it doesn't add value to my project. After talking to him, building that relationship, I had to pull him in, right? Rather than me pushing him, I had to pull him in. And then that also applied at the team level too, right? A lot of team members who I had to pull in.
Okay, so at the end, everything went fine.
Yeah, I mean, we became good friends.
Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you a situational question, kind of. Okay. So now
Okay.
assume you have been hired as a new Scrum Master, and this particular project is already delayed, let's say 2 months, and there are a lot of dependencies in this project. So as a Scrum Master, what you will do in this similar situation?
Good question. So if I'm hired as a Scrum Master, right, and then the project is already 2 months delayed. Okay, so in that situation, this is how I would approach, right? It's again depends company to company, but to tackle that problem, if project is already 2 months delayed, I would get all the stakeholders in the room together right now on a virtual meeting, and understand what is the minimum viable product that we can release and how soon we can release this, right? And noting that you have dependencies, so write down all the or put down the stakeholders and discuss what is the minimum viable product that we can release and then how soon we can release. So put the plan together and then go for the next release date. This is what I will do. And then also put the plan forward for next couple of releases. Noting that you have dependencies because you want to actually have those dependency partners to align with those releases, right?
Okay. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. And one more bouncer is coming on your way. So now
Sure.
let's assume your team has, missed the release deadline, and which will now going to impact other dependent project activities. So as a Scrum Master, what will be your next steps? Your team is already demotivated, and so how you are. What will be your next steps in this kind of situation?
Okay. I mean, if we miss the deadline, I'm pretty sure that, the teams that I'm coaching is probably have problems with the quality, right? If quality is not the problem or the concern, that I would like to, of course, you don't want to dissect the problem because other teams are dependent on you right now. Get all those dependent teams in the room with your team, and then again, reprioritize the work and then see what have we missed. Where's the impact of missed deadline? And then what can we do to recover and how soon we can deliver it next. Like, it could be a week after, it could be 2 weeks later, but we need to put the release out, right? Because everybody's dependent on us. Other thing is, I would hammer that on that, quality comes first. We don't want to deliver anything taking a shortcut, even if it's missing a deadline or putting a release date 2 months behind. The release date, to me, quality matters the most, and the product that people are going to use, that's what matters the most, rather than just meeting the deadline. And again, you can retrospect later on with your team, hey guys, why did we miss the deadline? What happened? How can we not let this problem happen, right? So do the root cause analysis and have the executives in your room too.
Yep. Okay. Great. Okay. So one more on your way.
Sure.
So now let's say you're being given a new team, and the team you are going to work, they don't have much experience in Agile or Scrum. So how do you influence or motivate them to use Scrum?
Okay. First thing, before I even motivate them and influence them, I would like to actually go in and observe. you as a Scrum Master to go there and observing the team is so important and critical. That's because you don't have any data, right? You're going in based off of your interview or organization, what the information they gave you, or the recruiter, the information that they gave you. But you going in as a Scrum Master and observing your team, right? Find out what they're really good at, what their weaknesses are, and then what can you improve, right? And based off of that, start relaying the message of like their agile framework, agile mindset, right? And influence them about the minimum cycles, right? Or minimum product deliveries, and then fast deliveries, right? Quick feedbacks, collaboration with the customers and the stakeholders, right? And then how it will add value. And then also coach them and mentor them on agile principles and values, right? Because when you say framework and processes and you want to go in and change everything, everybody gets scared and everybody thinks like, okay, we are going to change their whole entire world, whole workflow.
Yeah, correct. Okay. So how you measure success of a Scrum Master?
That's
it's just very difficult, but then, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's I think in a lot of interviews that people ask, and that's a good question. That you can measure team success, you can measure project success, organization, but for you, what you need to do. So for a Scrum Master, in my opinion, right, is basically for a Scrum Master, right? How are you meeting goals with the organization, right? So let's say organization has values, a mission statement, right? And are you delivering on those statements, right? Are you actually aligned with organizational goals, project goals, and team goals? And if you're making progress, right, and you're helping people develop themselves, you're right. So let's say, junior developer becoming a senior developer, right? How are you helping them? And you can measure success that way, right? How much of people like using your product, customer-wise, right? What is the feedback from the customer stakeholders? Those are measures for Scrum Master. And again, Scrum Master should focus on, of course, the product is there to focus on, number one, but then also the people, right? Are the teams feeling happy? Are they feeling motivated? Are they doing what they need to do, right? And is everybody happy when they come in to work every single day, right? Because you as a Scrum Master set the tone for success, right? If you go into your meetings, right, for example, the daily stand-up, and you don't have energy, they're not going to be like energetic daily. So take that from the daily to longer and then more long-term goals, right? And that's how I think you measure success of a Scrum Master.
Okay, yeah, I think we are running out of questions now. So thanks. And
I have a question for you.
oh God. Yeah.
See, you ask questions to everyone, but now I want to ask you a question.
Please let me try. Let me try.
How has your experience been as a Scrum Master? And did you like start from a Scrum Master role, or were you in a different role previously?
Yeah. So yeah, I was basically a AS400 developer. It's kind of mainframe sort of. And as you mentioned, again, same thing happened with me as well. Like I was working as a lead, tech lead, team lead, whatever you call it. And that time this Scrum is just taking, pace, and people are talking about Agile and all. And slowly, gradually, our team and myself been get coached with other people. Training has been given, and that's how my transition started from the developer to Scrum Master role. And yeah, gradually I just learn a lot of things from people. So for me, people came to me, right? Like they want to start it as a Scrum Master. So what should they do? Which certification they should do? So I always tell them certification is like a secondary thing. Invest your time in some good books. Yeah, certification is good for a basic, but just sake of certification, please do not pass them. People have dumps and a lot of things. So invest your time. If you are doing any certification, uh, do it thoroughly. Invest your time, spend time with other teams, other Scrum coaches. Just go into different meetups nowadays. A lot of meetups are happening. This time is the perfect time. If anyone wants to be a Scrum Master, they can. But then there should be some natural traits in a Scrum Master. So you should ask yourself, as you mentioned, right, that whether you are ready to be a servant leader, what is your personality? There is no wrong if you ask me to be a project manager, because still, like, I mean, there are few kind of projects we require those kind of project managers, though are,
Right.
and this is there. So because project managers are required in construction project, lot of oil refinery kind of projects, we only just focus on IT projects, right? But then there are multiple projects.
Right.
So we require those kind of people also. So there is nothing
Right.
right or wrong, that okay, if you are project manager, so you are a different evil or devil kind of person. It's
Right.
okay. But then you have
It's
to find
just,
yourself where you belong, whether you really want to be that guy or you want to be this side, right? So
right.
I saw a couple of good project managers in the past, and they have successfully done the transition into now they are enterprise agile coaches and all. They are doing it pretty well. But
Right.
as you mentioned, then there are still a few people I met still has a agile coach, but then with the typical mindset. So it's a difficult job, I would say. It's not that easy, which people thought that okay, they just do one or two certification and they just jump into a Scrum Master role. So it's more than that. So yeah,
Yeah.
and till now my experience is too good. Thanks to guys like you. Now I have this. I'm just helping, serving people. In the last, because now you asked, and I have to tell this to everyone, to the larger audience. So last year, a couple of my friends lost job due to
I
this
see.
COVID situation. So I'm just helping them in helping them with the preparation of interviews and all. And that's how this idea came up to
I
start
see.
this channel. And yeah,
And you know what? That is what's more important, most important is, right? And that's why I ask you a question, because you're doing a great job and you're doing something very important that a lot of people want to do, but not doing it. And you are the one who's doing it. So thank you for doing this. And thank you for helping everyone, right? And you're creating a chain to help people. So it's, again, thank you. You
yeah,
deserve
I'm
more than
getting a lot
that.
of help from people like you. And there are a lot of people who just come with their queries, questions, and a lot of things. So yeah, I'm just contributing whatever I can do, with the time which is available with me. So
Right.
yeah, let's see.
Yeah, and one thing that you mentioned that I'm going to point out is, it's not about getting the certification or certified, right? It's about implementing it and doing it, and you learn by practice. So as you do it, that's the best way to, learn things. And don't worry
Absolutely.
about failing. Just
Absolutely.
fail, but fail forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thanks a lot, Jeff, for your time. And definitely I'm going to invite you again